Chapter 3696. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC. After everyone was done eating, Duanmu Shui spoke again. Apart from the treasured fruits, I also have a mystical technique. As long as you join the sacred land and become an in-name disciple, I can pass it on to you. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. What kind of technique could be considered a mystical technique by the sacred land? Was it created by a sage? Ling Han was surprised. The slaughter in the mystic realm had been so cruel, but now they were giving them treasured fruits to eat and a mystical technique to cultivate. The contrast was too great. As long as one became an in-name disciple, one would have a lot of freedom. However, the Golden Origin sacred land had paid so much just to get a few in-name disciples. Why bother? Ling Han didn't believe that the Golden Origin sacred land would be so kind as to not give benefits to their own people. They weren't idiots. Therefore, he couldn't understand why the Golden Origin sacred land would be so generous. Mr. Duanmu, may I ask what this mystical technique is? Someone asked. Duanmu Shui nodded. It's called the Seven Sacred Heavens technique. It can increase your cultivation speed by more than 10 times. Furthermore, the quality of your mystic power will also be greatly improved. In a battle of the same realm, you will obviously be stronger than your opponent. Everyone was surprised and delighted. They were surprised that the Golden Origin sacred land was actually willing to pass on such an important technique to them. They were delighted that after learning this technique, their future would be bright and resplendent. Not a single person had any doubts. Ling Han was shocked. How could there be treasures falling from the sky for no reason? Were they all stupid? No, none of them were stupid. The reason why they seemed so confused was probably because they had been affected by the immortal tree. At that time, even he had almost turned into a murderous demon king. Fortunately, he had the 6 words Wisdom King mantra to dispel his inner demons. This wouldn't change a person's mind, but it would definitely affect them, causing them to only see the benefits. Ling Han's heart rang with alarm. What was this Golden Origin sacred land doing? They were up to no good. He remained calm and collected. At most, he would summon the heavenly Dao fire. After all, he was Niu Jianhua and couldn't be blamed on him. However, cultivating the 7 sacred heavenly art requires the cooperation of 2 people, 1 yin and 1 yang. As the saying goes, solitary yin cannot give birth, solitary yang cannot grow, Duanmu Shui said seriously. She clapped her hands, and another 12 people walked over. Hu Yongxing, Shi An, and Wen Feiwen were among them. They were the 12-star envoys of the Golden Origin Holy Land. Let me introduce them to everyone. These 12 are the 12-star envoys of the Holy Land. They are also the strongest 12 of the Holy Land's younger generation. Duanmu Shui smiled and said, when cultivating the 7 sacred heavens technique, the faster the person you are paired with will cultivate, the faster your own cultivation speed will increase as well. The 12-star envoys have long since cultivated the yang section of the 7 sacred heavenly art. Now, they will make a choice. They will pass down the yin section of the 7 sacred heavenly art. There are also some special ceremonies that need to be carried out. Hu Yongxing and the others walked over. They didn't spend much time on it, as if they had already decided beforehand. They each found their own training partners. Ling Han's sparring partner was a woman. She was extremely beautiful, and she was also the only female among the 12-star envoys. Her figure was extremely tall, and she was dressed in a red tight-fitting robe that accentuated her impressive figure. She nodded at Ling Han and said, "What a coincidence. Junior brother Niu, my surname is Ma, and my name is Ma Fenyu." Was Niu and Ma considered a coincidence? Ling Han chuckled and said, "I'll have to disappoint Miss Ma. I don't intend to enter the Holy Land and cultivate the 7 sacred heavens technique." As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned. You don't want to cultivate? You don't want to cultivate a cultivation technique that can increase your cultivation speed by at least 10 times? This is a cultivation technique of the Holy Land. Don't you know what the 12-star envoys represent? In every generation, only the most outstanding disciples were qualified to become candidates for the 12-star envoys. They also had to go through countless competitions before they could officially become star envoys. Once they became star envoys, they would be restricted for life. Even if they went missing or died, they wouldn't be replaced or replaced. Star envoys were all powerhouses in the Holy Land in the future. They had the potential to become sect masters. Hence, to be able to cultivate the 7 sacred heavens technique within star envoys, what kind of good fortune was that? You actually refused. Ma Fenyu didn't expect this either. She looked at Ling Han in a daze and didn't know what to say for a moment. He, I also don't intend to cultivate the 7 sacred heavens technique. Another voice sounded. Hong Tian Bu Duanmu Shue's expression was a little ugly. Ling Han and Hong Tian Bu were the most talented among this group of people, and they were also the most valued by him. Now, both of them actually said no. He snorted and said, "What a joke. The Holy Land imparts techniques, not begging you to learn them." He glanced at the others and asked, "Is there anyone else who doesn't want to learn?" No one spoke. Even if their divine senses weren't affected, they probably wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of the 7 sacred heavens technique. "All right, you guys can leave first." Duanmu Shui waved her hand. Everyone left one after another, leaving only Ling Han, Hong Tian Bu, Duanmu Shui, Ma Yufan, and Jiang Zhengping. Jiang Zhengping was Hong Tian Bu's training partner. "You guys really don't want to learn?" Duanmu Shui's gentle expression changed to a fierce glint. Ling Han smiled and said, "Didn't Mr. Duanmu just say that the Holy Land's technique doesn't require us to train? Please send us away." He really wanted to take Hong Tian Bu down personally and bring him back to the imperial capital. Duanmu Shui sneered, "You want to leave after eating the treasure of my Holy Land?" Hong Tian Bu's expression changed, and he said, as expected, "There's a conspiracy behind the imparting of technique." He had merged with the eye of an ancient ferocious creature, so his willpower was naturally strong. Although his mind was slightly affected, it was far better than the others. Duanmu Shui laughed loudly and said, "Of course, we're not running a charity and specialize in doing good deeds. But, what kind of conspiracy could there be in passing on cultivation techniques?" Ling Han asked. "You don't need to know about this," Jiang Zhengping said. Duanmu Shui smiled and said, "It's fine. Just tell him. He can't run away anyway. He was a life core expert. So what if Ling Han was a 10-star genius? He could slap him to death with one hand." Since he had already said so, Jiang Zhengping couldn't object. He only had a gloomy expression and was extremely dissatisfied. He had taken a fancy to Hong Tian Bu's aptitude, but the other party had objected. It would be difficult to find another high-quality cauldron. Duanmu Shui said unhurriedly, "It's true that the 7 sacred heavenly art can increase your cultivation speed by more than 10 times. However, this is at the cost of your lifespan. So, you can only live for 10 years at most." Ling Han and Hong Tian Bu's expressions changed. This was too sinister. "But what benefits does it bring to you?" Hong Tian Bu asked in a low voice. "Of course there is." Duanmu Shui smiled. "Did you forget that you still have a partner? 10 years later, your partner will completely absorb your Dao fruit, and it won't be a problem for you to break through to the next realm. It will save you hundreds or even thousands of years of bitter cultivation. F***ck, so ruthless. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3697. A Good Romance. BQG 6. "CC, you guys are really ruthless," Hong Tianbu said. "How could a sacred ground be so despicable? You guys only have 2 choices. First, die now. Second, live for another 10 years. I can guarantee that you guys will live an exciting life." Duanmu Shui said. "Exciting your head," Ling Han sneered. "I'll let you have this chance. If I am talented enough, I am willing to be a cauldron and contribute to the sacred ground." Rui Mu Shui said indifferently, "This is a great mission. You might only have 10 years of exciting life, but in the future, your lives will be carried on by the envoys and shine on the entire universe. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to say anything." Ling Han laughed out loud. "You guys are just a sage faction. What are you acting like? Don't forget that you guys don't even have a sage. At most, you only have a few supremacies. How dare you talk about shining on the entire universe? What a joke. How dare you? Jiang Zhengping shouted. Duanmu Shui waved her hand and said, Young man, everyone has a predetermined fate. Your fate is to become the cauldron of the 12 envoys and burn yourself. Hong Tianbu sneered. He had obtained a personal disciple of a spirit transformation true lord, and his luck was heaven-defying. He even fused with the eye of an ancient ferocious creature and obtained countless secret treasures. Now, a life core realm could trap him? Ling Han shook his head. Old man, do you know that you are planting the seeds of destruction for the sacred ground? Ha, ha ha ha. Duanmu Shui laughed. Jiang Zhengping and Ma Yufan also sneered. A mere Foundation Establishment Realm Junior actually dared to say that he wanted to destroy the sacred ground. Wasn't this a huge joke? Not to mention the fact that the sacred ground had a sage artifact and 4 supreme realm supremacies, even a few caste tripod realm experts would be able to easily kill Ling Han. Threatening the sacred ground? Hehe, where did he get the courage from? Oh, what methods do you have? Show me. Duanmu Shui said. He was bored, which was why he teased such a small fry. Anyway, he had nothing to do. Ling Han smiled. You really want to see? Don't hide it. Use it, Duanmu Shui said indifferently. Will you regret it? Ling Han asked again. You only know how to talk glibly. I can't be bothered to waste any more time with you. Duanmu Shui sneered. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at Ling Han. A life core warrior made his move. Boom, his aura was like a mountain, crushing everything in its path. Ling Han took out the primal chaos extreme thunder pagoda. This time, the treasure no longer concealed itself. Primal chaos energy descended and lightning flashed. It emitted a great aura that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Duanmu Shui couldn't help but pause his attack. He stared fixedly at the primal chaos extreme thunder pagoda, his eyes almost glowing. That's a saint tool. Lu Yin's heart thumped with excitement. Other than saint-tier materials, how could it have such an aura? He couldn't be blamed for not having good eyesight. Even if he was born in a holy land, it was impossible for him to see a saint artifact. Even a saint artifact couldn't be indestructible. Therefore, in order to make the saint artifact last as long as possible, the heaven and earth energy was used to suppress, seal, and slow down its aging. If he could obtain a saint-tier material, how strong would he become? Even if he handed it over to the upper echelons of the Holy Land, he would definitely make a great contribution and obtain unimaginable cultivation resources. Not to mention the true self realm, even the sect master realm might not be an extravagant hope. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to actually have such a treasure hidden on you. Duanmu Shui laughed loudly. He continued to stretch out his hand and grab at Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head. I brought this upon myself. With a thought, the 9th level of the Primal Chaos Extreme Thunder Pagoda opened. Boom, a terrifying heavenly Tao flame surged out and transformed into a boundless flame tide. This was the heavenly Tao flame. Even if its power had decreased compared to when it was in the Flaming Canyon, it could still burn a venerable to death. What a terrifying existence. Boom, the flame tide surged and instantly spread to Duanmu Shui, Ma Yufan, and Jiang Zhengping. Ah, no. The 3 of them all screamed and revealed expressions of endless fear, but what was the use? When the flame swept past, not even a speck of ash was left behind. They were all extremely indignant, especially Duanmu Shui. He was in the life core tier, and his true battle prowess could instantly kill Ling Han. But in front of the flame of the heavenly Tao, he had become a weakling that could not be any weaker. There was no need to mention Ma Yufan and Jiang Zhengping. Although they were the envoys of this generation, a mere Foundation Establishment realm cultivator was nothing in front of the heavenly Tao flame. Hong Tianbu, on the other hand, was really extraordinary. Ling Han clearly saw that when the heavenly Tao flame surged past, a huge eye appeared above his head and emitted light. It actually petrified the heavenly Tao flame for a moment. Although it was only for an instant, it gave him a chance to escape. He tore a talisman paper, and then with a whoosh, he instantly disappeared. This was a talisman soldier similar to the 10,000-mile escape technique. Ling Han was somewhat surprised. It seemed that he had still underestimated Hong Tianbu. He originally thought that the primordial fierce creature's eye that he had fused with would at most be at the sect master level, but looking at it now, it was very likely that it had reached the venerable level. Strange, the heavenly ocean planet was not a low-level planet. At most, it was a mid-level planet, so how could there be a giant like a venerable? Boom, just as he was thinking, the heavenly Tao flame also spread wider and wider, as if it was going to turn the entire Holy Land into a sea of fire. The heavenly Tao flame was too terrifying, and it could even kill venerables. There was nothing that could stop it as it burned its way forward. Fortunately, the further it spread, the slower the heavenly Tao flame would advance. Otherwise, no one would have been able to escape. Even so, the entire Holy Land was in chaos, and miserable screams rang out incessantly. These people could leave, but the immortal stalk could not. As it burned its way forward, the herb gardens along the way were not spared, and were all burned to ashes. Take this opportunity to escape. Ling Han thought to himself, and hurriedly used so close, yet worlds apart, and escaped without a trace. Who dares to be impudent in the Holy Land? A terrifying voice rang out, and then a giant figure appeared in the sky. It was at least 10,000 feet tall, but it seemed to be condensed from light, and did not seem to have a physical body. This was a venerable from the Gold Origin Holy Land. He lived at the peak of the mountain, so he was affected by the heavenly Tao flame slightly later, and thus lost the opportunity to attack immediately. He slapped down with his palm, wanting to extinguish the flame, but this slap only attracted the fire to himself. Not only did the flame not extinguish, but it also burned up along his hand. Boom, his entire body was burning fiercely. The heavenly Tao flame could kill a venerable. Heavens, even venerable Yuan Xiong is no match for it. Could it be that another holy land has invited a holy weapon to attack us? Seeing this, the survivors of the Holy Land all exclaimed in shock. Wang, just at this moment, a golden light soared up from the mountain, and then a golden ruler appeared in the air, emitting an indescribably terrifying aura. Holy weapon, Gold Origin Sky Measuring Ruler. More refreshing reading on mobile phones. Chapter 3698. A Good Romance. BQG 6. See Sither Heaven Measuring Metal Ruler, forged by the Gold Origin Saint in the past, was a true saint tool. As soon as the ruler appeared, endless golden light shone down. The power of heaven and earth was also drawn, condensing endless power of heaven and earth, suppressing the heavenly Tao fire. If the heavenly Tao fire had not been weakened, then even a saint tool would not be able to suppress it. This was a terrifying fire that could burn saints to death. However, the power of the heavenly Tao fire had been weakened, and was no match for a saint tool. However, the heavenly Tao fire was still the heavenly Tao fire. Although the heaven measuring metal ruler could suppress it, it was not so easy to extinguish it. It could only eliminate the flames bit by bit, which was not something that could be done in a short period of time. It would take at least 8 to 10 days, or even longer. The only good news was that the fire had finally stopped spreading. The people of the Gold Origin Holy Land were furious and confused. What was going on? Which Holy Land had attacked? Otherwise, how could it be that even venerables could not withstand this fire, and even the heaven measuring metal ruler had to expend so much effort to extinguish it? A grand Holy Land actually had 2/3 of its territory burned. There was no way to calculate how many people had died, but the herb garden could not be moved, so the losses could be seen clearly. There was only one word to describe it: heavy losses. Which force was it that had to take responsibility and compensate? Every disciple of the Holy Land was furious. They would not let this matter rest, never. Ling Han had already run out of the Holy Land. Now that the situation was so chaotic, who would care about a mere foundation building cultivator like him? Moreover, he had already removed his armor and mask. The armor was already severely damaged, so he threw it away. The mask could also expose his identity, so he also threw it aside. Now, he was not the Niu Jianhua who had participated in the Gold Origin Fruit Festival, but the young human-level low-level alchemist Ling Han. He first found the Empress and the others, and without saying much, left with them. When they arrived at the next city, Ling Han went out to inquire, and soon received news. The Golden Origin Holy Land had already summoned back 2 venerables who were out and 1 venerable who was in seclusion. With the addition of the venerable who was in charge, the 4 venerables were frantically searching for the whereabouts of the assailants. At first, they suspected that it was done by the other sacred grounds, especially the Scarlet Fire Sacred Ground. Their flaming mirror could spit out flames that could kill supremacies. However, if one were to carefully distinguish the power of the flames, it would be easy to discover that the flames blasted out by the mirror of blazing flame were different. Therefore, this shouldn't have anything to do with the Fire Sacred Land. They traced the source of the flames and finally discovered that the flames had started from the location where the Metal Essence Fruit Festival was held. There were 12 outsiders at the time, and 10 of them had followed the 10 envoys. Only 2 of them had stayed behind. One was Hong Tian Bu, the other was called Niu Jianhua. Therefore, this terrifying flame must have something to do with these 2 people. Find these 2. The Gold Origin Holy Lands issued a bounty for Hong Tianbu and Niu Jianhua. Both of them had names and backgrounds, so it wasn't difficult to find them. Hey, how did you become Niu Jianhua? The little lowly licked the candy and suddenly exclaimed, "You've tricked people again." Ling Han laughed loudly. What great truth are you spouting? Since he was sure that this matter didn't involve him, Ling Han decided to return to Heavenly Sea Star. As for Princess Bai Xiao, it was said that those who didn't enter the top 12 had been expelled from the sacred ground, so he had to find a way back. Then he would first find Princess Bai Xiao and let her hitch a ride. Otherwise, she really couldn't return to Heavenly Sea Star. Now that the Gold Origin Holy Land was so badly burned, how could he be in the mood to send these people back? Hey, husband, is this your new wife? The Empress asked. No. Ling Han immediately shook his head, his face full of righteousness. Before, I only had one thought in my mind, and that was how to get you out. How could I be in the mood to flirt with others? That's not necessarily true, the Empress said indifferently. Husband, you are so outstanding that there are too many women who throw themselves at you. It was impossible for a monster race princess to be possible. Yes, father is the most outstanding. Third baby nodded. She was like the Empress, a Tsunda type. Okay, don't flatter me. Let's quickly find someone and then go back, Ling Han said. As the main culprit, Ling Han still felt a little guilty. Naturally, he would feel safer if he left as soon as possible. He went to find Princess Bai Xiao. She was in Seven Void City. Everyone who came to participate in the Gold Origin Fruit Festival stayed here. The Gold Origin Holy Land said that they would send them back in the future, but it didn't say how long. Thus, Ling Han easily found Princess Bai Xiao. Hey, these 2 are. Princess Bai Xiao was surprised when she saw the Empress and Hu Niu. She didn't remember Ling Han having these 2 people by his side. Oh, they are both my wives, Ling Han said casually. Princess Bai Xiao was instantly stunned. Did he come to participate in the Gold Origin Fruit Festival or to pick up girls? Moreover, he picked up 2 at once. Ling Han laughed. We are married long ago, and have groups of children and grandchildren. This was the truth, but how could Princess Bai Xiao believe it? Look at yourself, you are only 20 years old, and you have grandchildren? Hee hee. Princess Bai Xiao shook her head secretly. Bah, this playboy. If she had known earlier, she would have made her move earlier and pushed Ling Han down. In that case, she would at least be the first madam. Bah, what nonsense was she thinking? She didn't like this playboy. They returned, and the shuttle broke through the air, heading towards Heavenly Sea Star. Shuttling through nodes along the way, this was another long journey of half a year. Ling Han didn't feel that time was running out. Although he couldn't cultivate, he could study the array patterns, which required endless time and energy. Unknowingly, half a year passed, and the shuttle finally returned to Heavenly Sea Star. Ling Han couldn't help but think that it would be great if there was a teleportation array on Heavenly Sea Star that led directly to other planets. Then, with just a xiu, he could cross the endless star distance and reach his destination. At most, he would just have to jump between several arrays a few times. Returning to the imperial capital, Ling Han first went to see Lin Luo and the others. As expected of almighty elites who could cultivate to the 7th step in the origin world. Those former 7th step heavenly venerables had now advanced into the opening aperture tier, and they could reach such heights in a year and a half. Even with the help of cultivation resources provided by Ling Han, it could still be seen that they were very talented. In contrast, because the Empress followed Ling Han to the mystic Moonstar, they lost a year of cultivation time. Currently, they were only at the blood transformation realm, which was much inferior. Unfortunately, even Lin Luo and the others couldn't cultivate the 7 transformations, 7 bones, and 7 patterns. Since Ling Han was the only one who could do it, then a special case like him could be ignored. He could break the limit in every realm, no matter where he was a genius among geniuses. After entering the immortal path, all of them could become 4-star geniuses or even higher. It wouldn't be long before Lin Luo and Zhu Heng could share Ling Han's burden. Ling Han temporarily lay dormant and studied the array. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3700. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Cixi Ling Han patted Shenyuan Dinghua on the shoulder. Be realistic. But if it's just this, it's still not big news, right? It could only be said that Heavenly Sea Star had a glorious history. Shenyuan Dinghua glanced at him. You are too impatient. Can't you wait for me to finish? Ling Han raised his hands. Okay, go ahead. I won't interrupt. Shenyuan Dinghua said, since Heavenly Sea Star once had a saint, of course, it has the inheritance of the saint. Ling Han took it seriously. Now we know the whereabouts of the saint's inheritance. Look at you. You just said you won't interrupt. Why are you interrupting again? Shenyuan Dinghua pointed at him. Ling Han was speechless. You will be beaten up if you talk like this. During the war, the nearby starfield was turned into a dead star. Even after the war, no one could enter for tens of thousands of years. They would be killed by the chaotic energy, Shenyuan Dinghua said. When the chaotic energy dissipated a little, some powerful people entered to search for the saint's inheritance, but they never found it. After searching for tens of thousands of years, everyone thought that the saint's inheritance was destroyed in the war. Since then, Heavenly Sea Star has become a small star, and no one cares about it. Shenyuan Dinghua paused and said, until now. What's wrong now? Ling Han asked. Now? Haha. Shenyuan Dinghua said, didn't our Heavenly Sea Star become a cage? People like Primordial Immortal and Zhouling Immortal were locked up for thousands of years. They had nothing to do, so they did a lot of research and found some information about ancient times there. There are a few stone tablets, which record the inheritance of Saint Jiyu Yang. It is said that Saint Jiyu Yang couldn't find a suitable successor. He was worried that his Tao would be lost when his lifespan was up, so he set up a secret realm to test his descendants. As long as you pass the test, you can get the saint's inheritance. Shenyuan Dinghua was full of envy. If I can get the saint's inheritance, I can kill Spirit Immortal with one slap. Ling Han smiled and did not attack him. Even if one obtained the inheritance of a saint, the height one could reach would depend on one's own talent. Otherwise, wouldn't the Holy Land be filled with venerables and sect masters? The sage's inheritance could indeed allow a martial artist to reach a higher level. However, if casting a cauldron was the original limit, then the most one could do now was to reach the life dance stage. It was impossible for him to break through to the next level. Shenyuan Dinghua had yet to reach the mystic-seeking realm. His talent could only be considered average. In the future, it would be his limit to leap over the immortal gate. Wanting to kill perfected Lord Spirit transformation with a slap was destined to be a beautiful dream. Right now, the 4 true monarchs are all searching for the location of that secret realm. Shenyuan Dinghua said, it's said that the mystic realm has opened in the past tens of thousands of years, but no one has passed the test. The mystic realm should be opening soon. I must seize this opportunity and soar into the sky. Shenyuan Dinghua patted Ling Han on the shoulder. From now on, let me protect you. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh and nodded. All right. His heart was moved. Although he could cultivate the Great Sun Lotus technique, That was the reward for passing the lowest level of the black iron 9-storied pagoda. How good could it be? If he could obtain a sage's mental cultivation method, then his cultivation speed would definitely increase by a level. Look, it had been more than a year, but he hadn't made much progress in the human foundation building stage. His cultivation method was really too weak. There were naturally other reasons. For example, he had spent an entire year traveling through the stars and couldn't cultivate at all. Ling Han secretly decided that if the mystic realm opened, he would definitely join in. I reckon that the mystic realm is in our Xianbei nation. Otherwise, the 4 perfected lords of spirit transformation could have searched for it themselves. Why would they spread the news? They must have wanted His Majesty's cooperation, Shenyuan Dingwa said. Ling Han agreed. Otherwise, the 4 perfected lords of spirit transformation would have made a fortune in silence. Could it be that the reason why the primordial lords of spirit transformation escaped from the cage but didn't hide from the Azure Dragon Empire was because of the inheritance of Sage Jiyu Yang? It was very possible. It was absolutely worth the risk for the inheritance of a sage. Maybe they would have the chance to become a sage. At that time, it would be a piece of cake for them to seek revenge from the Azure Dragon Empire. Even if they couldn't become a sage, they could go one step further and become a sect master-level expert. The world was so big, where couldn't they go? Ling Han wanted to refine the Greenwood spiritual restoration pill, but he couldn't find the Fox Greenwood. It was controlled by the 5 spirit transformation realm forces and couldn't be bought. The current heavenly sea star seemed to be in its enlightenment period. The market was not healthy, and the only alchemist above the immortal path was probably Ling Han. In such an environment, how could immortal-grade herbs be circulated? Ling Han couldn't help but think of leaving Heavenly Sea Star. Here, his alchemy skills couldn't be displayed at all. However, it was better to wait for the mystic realm first. A few days later, Ling Han was studying the formation, but his heart suddenly palpitated. He opened the door and looked into the distance, only to see a pillar of light soaring into the sky. It was even brighter than the sun. After a while, the light beam disappeared. An hour later, the light beam reappeared as if it was sending a signal. There were many versions of this light. Some said that a treasure was about to be born, some thought that a powerful expert was refining an immortal pill, and that it was a beam of celestial light. Some said that an innate divine body was about to be born. Many people believed each version. But in the end, these were all proved to be rumors. This was a mystic realm that was about to be born, and this mystic realm was the hidden moon mystic realm where one could obtain the inheritance of Saint Jiyu Yang. Ling Han took the Empress and the others to the place where the light beam came from. It was an ordinary place. It was a wasteland with only a few weeds growing occasionally. It seemed to have little vitality. But every hour, a thick beam of light would soar into the sky and disappear into the depths of the universe. Where was the mystic realm? It hadn't been officially opened yet, so there was no entrance. Ling Han stayed nearby. Once the mystic realm opened, he would be the first to enter. And in the next few days, the situation was turbulent. Because the secret territory was within the Xianbei country, how could the primordial true sovereign and the others just sit back and watch? They brought a large number of experts with them to pressure Chen Fengyang. It was obvious that once the secret territory opened, they would enter as well. Not only that, but in various places of Heavenly Sea Star, teleportation arrays flashed and many young geniuses poured in. These young geniuses carried letters of at least the sect master level, hoping that Chen Fengyang, primordial true lord, and other experts would give them face and let them enter the mystic realm. Reading on a mobile phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3701. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Why have so many extraterrestrial visitors been alarmed? It turned out that the light of this secret land was so bright that it could be seen from several nearby star areas. The powerful figures calculated and found that the Yin-Yang secret land was opening again, so they opened the transmission array and sent their descendants to the Heavenly Sea Star. Because Heavenly Sea Star was a large planet in ancient times, there was no lack of interstellar teleportation arrays. But later, Heavenly Sea Star disintegrated and its level plummeted, so no one was teleported here anymore. This teleportation required a large amount of resources. Even the Holy Lands would feel the pinch. However, it was different this time. The hidden moon realm was directly related to the inheritance of a saint. Even a spirit transformation realm power would grit their teeth and send their juniors over. Regarding the masked moon secret realm, those visitors from the outer space knew more. This place only opened once every 10,000 years, and the condition to enter was to be at the Foundation Establishment Cauldron Forging realm or above. However, their cultivation would be reduced to the Foundation Establishment realm. 10,000 years ago, the masked moon mystic realm had actually opened, but no one had obtained the sage's inheritance. This time, the masked moon mystic realm was about to open. Therefore, those who knew about the masked moon mystic realm immediately sent their people over to fight for the opportunity. Who wouldn't be tempted by the inheritance of a saint? However, the higher the cultivation of the person, the greater the price to pay. In any case, even sect masters would have their cultivation weakened when they entered the secret realm, so what was the point of such a big shot coming? Therefore, they only sent their juniors over with a letter. No one on Heavenly Sea Star would dare to disrespect them. If they were really angered and teleported here at all costs, wouldn't Heavenly Ocean Star be destroyed in an instant? When the Heavenly Sea Star recovered, many of the best of the younger generation came, such as Nyo Jianhua and the others. They wanted to get top Foundation Establishment divine stones here and snatch opportunities. But in comparison, the previous group of people could only be considered ordinary. Would the true geniuses of the great sects lack such low-level materials? Therefore, when the inheritance of the sage was involved, a true genius finally came. It was said that the geniuses who came this time were extraordinary. There was no lack of 3-star geniuses, and it was said that there were even 4-star geniuses. Because the basic requirement to enter the mystery realm was to reach the foundation level, Ling Han sent the Empress, Hu Niu, and the others back to the imperial capital first. That was the main camp of Black North Country. At present, no one dared to act recklessly, so it was relatively safe. When Ling Han returned, only Princess Bai Xiao and 6th baby were left with him. Princess Bai Xiao had advanced into the Zhuji tier, so she naturally had to enter the masked moon mystery realm. 6th baby's invisibility technique had great uses, so he was left behind by Ling Han. The rest of the 6th baby was in the imperial capital to protect the Empress and the others. Tang Yun-er also stayed in the imperial capital. She had already been conquered by the Empress's charm, sticking to the Empress every day like a shadow. Since the Empress didn't come, she naturally couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Ling Han. Besides, she couldn't enter the mystic realm. Everyone was waiting. Since the secret realm was glowing, it meant that the opening time was near. Some people were very low-key, just waiting in the dark, but some people were very arrogant. They were born on a high-level planet, and there were great figures like sect masters or even venerables behind them. Coming to such a backward planet, how could they know how to restrain themselves? Who dared to touch them? Who dared to punish them? Weren't they afraid that the big shots behind them would immediately come through the teleportation array and raze Heavenly Sea Planet to the ground? In the past few days, there were endless fights, and there were also slick extraterrestrial geniuses who held banquets to broaden their connections and prepare to enter the mystery realm. For example, although Ling Han was the first local genius, he was completely ignored. On such a backward planet, what kind of genius could there be? Even the strongest was only in the spirit transformation tier. In the eyes of these extraterrestrial geniuses, the saint's inheritance in the masked moon mystery realm was completely prepared for them. They only needed to enter, stretch out their hands, and they could obtain the saint's inheritance. Coming out of the mystery realm was the difficult part, because no force would let anyone easily take away the saint's inheritance, and there would definitely be a war. A large number of people gathered here, and it might not be a day or two. Therefore, many tents were set up nearby, and some people were even more exaggerated. There was even a small courtyard in their spatial instrument, and when they were thrown there, they looked just like the locals. There were all kinds of people, even geniuses. Some were diligent, some were casual, some were pure, and some were lustful. Recently, there had been more than one incident of women being molested, which made people panic. Many women now didn't dare to go out. With the increase of people, a small market was formed here. After all, every planet had its special products, and it was rare to sell them across the starfield. This was a very good opportunity. Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao were also very interested, so they brought sixth baby to join in the fun. There were many of these things, and there were also many good things. Unfortunately, they all needed to be traded with Dao stones, and no one accepted the jade seeds. Ling Han only had 3 Dao stones on him, but there were a lot of 1 or 2 star materials. He had robbed so many people before, so naturally, he had gained a lot. He also set up a stall, and Princess Bai Xiao was the center of attention. A great beauty could always attract people's attention. As expected, people kept coming over, but after seeing the beauty, most of them would also look at the goods on the stall. If they liked it, they would naturally make a move. In fact, the bestseller was the silver arowana. This kind of treasure belonged to the Holy Land, but there were only so many silver arowana. How could Ling Han take it out? He couldn't even split it among his own people. After selling for an entire morning, Ling Han had hundreds of Dao stones in his hands. He decided to pack up first and see if there was any green foxwood. If he refined the greenwood spirit mending pill and combined it with the silver arowana, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. After looking around, he really did find the green foxwood. It was very old, and sold for 30 Dao stones each time. However, he only needed 1/10 of it to refine pills, so he could refine it many times. "Friend, are you buying the green foxwood to refine the greenwood spirit mending pill?" the stall owner asked. "Yes." Ling Han nodded. The stall owner revealed a surprised expression. "You know how to concoct pills?" "I know a little." Ling Han was very modest. "Then if you refine the greenwood spirit mending pill, can you sell me a few?" The stall owner said, "In return, I can sell you green foxwood that is even older." Ling Han's eyes lit up. Of course, he was full of confidence in his own alchemy abilities. If he had a large supply of green foxwood, then the people around him would be able to guarantee their cultivation speed when they embarked on the path of immortality. "It's a deal." Ling Han paid the Dao stone and was about to call Princess Bai Xiao to leave, but when he looked left and right, he could not see the demon princess. "Hey, where is she?" He couldn't help but feel strange. "Dad, that monkey princess went over there. She said that someone was selling a strange stone. She went to take a look." Sixth baby said. Monkey Princess Ling Han couldn't help but be angry and amused at the same time. When did the 7 milk babies give Princess Bai Xiao such a nickname? He carried sixth baby and walked towards the place where Princess Bai Xiao was. It wasn't far from him. However, before he could reach the place, he heard a loud noise. Phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3702. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC Scram. Princess Bai Xiao's voice rang out. "What a hot beauty, but I like it." Another man's voice rang out, sounding extremely shameless. "Beauty, follow me in the future. I'll buy you anything you want." "I've already told you to scram," Princess Bai Xiao shouted once more, her tone filled with intense anger. "TSK, your face is so white and tender. Come, let Big Brother touch it." That man said again. Boom, the sound of battle rang out, and an energy wave surged over. Ling Han's gaze sharpened. Someone was taking liberties with Princess Bai Xiao. Although he didn't have any thoughts about this demon race princess, there was no reason for him to let others bully her. "Haha, it really is a rose with thorns. Big Brother likes it." Lecture. Ling Han walked over and saw that Princess Bai Xiao was in an intense battle with a green-robed man. The man looked to be about 25 or 26 years old and had a frivolous expression. His attacks were even more despicable as he stared at Princess Bai Xiao's face, chest, and thighs while extending his claws. This made Princess Bai Xiao extremely fearful. Even if she could knock him down with a single strike, she wasn't willing to take the risk of letting him touch her jade body. She could only widen the distance between them and attack through the air with her strength. However, the green-clothed man closed in step by step, and every move he made was despicable, causing Princess Bai Xiao to angrily rebuke him again and again, yet she was helpless to do anything. This meant that even though the green-clothed man was shameless, his strength was extremely formidable. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to force Princess Bai Xiao into such a sorry state. Now, this group of extraterrestrial visitors was here to seize the saint's inheritance. Not to mention the sect masters and venerable forces, even the successors of the Holy Land would be tempted. Wouldn't it be better to grasp two saints' ultimate arts? Therefore, the overall strength of this batch of young people was much stronger than the previous batch, be it in terms of realm or talent. Ling Han naturally couldn't bear to watch any longer. His figure flashed and arrived between Princess Bai Xiao and the azure-clothed man. "Fuck off." The green-robed man frowned, and a look of disgust appeared on his face. His right hand slapped out at Ling Han. Boom. The image of a moon in the sky illuminating the world appeared. Ling Han snorted and activated the demon monkey fist, clashing head-on with his opponent. Boom! The green-robed man's expression immediately changed, and he couldn't help but retreat repeatedly. He retreated 9 steps before he could stabilize his footing, but his face was completely red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood with a WA sound. Hey, Hu Qingbai was actually injured by someone. Someone immediately cried out from the side. Hu Qingbai is a Heaven Foundation establishment 2-star genius. The person who defeated him must be a Paramount Foundation establishment. That person should be a native of Heavenly Ocean Star. I've seen his holographic image before. I think his name is Ling Han. He and another genius, Hong Tianbu, are known as the Imperial Capital's 2 prides. The 2 prides of the Imperial Capital. Haha, I'm going to die of laughter. Even a mere native dares to boast like this. Don't forget, Hu Qingbai was just defeated by him. He's probably a 1-star genius at Foundation establishment. It wouldn't be strange if he could defeat Hu Qingbai. Originally, the crowd didn't take it to heart and were just looking at their own goods. However, Hu Qingbai was actually sent flying by a single punch from a native. This naturally attracted the attention of the crowd and they all walked over. Hey, this person's life aura isn't very strong. Someone sensed Ling Han's life aura and immediately revealed a surprised expression. It seems like his only at Mortal Foundation establishment. Haha, how is that possible? A Mortal Foundation establishment 2-star genius can defeat a Heaven Foundation establishment 2-star genius. What kind of combat power does he have? He has to be at least 4 stars. 4 stars is such a backward celestial body. Is that even possible? It's indeed impossible. Everyone shook their heads. They all looked down on Heavenly Ocean Star. Naturally, they wouldn't believe that Ling Han was a 4-star genius. This was like someone saying that a saint was born on a small celestial body. What a joke. Hu Qingbai rubbed his chest, calming the discomfort in his body. His eyes shone brightly as he stared at Ling Han. You actually dared to meddle in my business, and even dared to injure me. You must be tired of living. Ling Han put his hands behind his back and said indifferently, kneel down and apologize to my friend. Then I'll spare your life. Haha. Hu Qingbai couldn't help but laugh. It was ridiculous that a native dared to ask him to kneel and beg for mercy. Gigolo, you don't even know who I am. Hu Qingbai sneered. He was not stupid. Before he flirted with Princess Bai Xiao, he had already checked her identity. After all, it was very likely that there were real saintesses and imperial princesses here. He was courting death. But Princess Bai Xiao was a native. What kind of background could she have? That was why he was unscrupulous and treated Princess Bai Xiao as a meal. But who would have thought that another native would jump out and actually dare to ruin his plans and even injure him in public? This was intolerable. I am Hu Qingbai. My father is Huanlin sect's leader, Hu Longsheng, a minor realization expert, he said proudly. What kind of cultivation does the minor realization realm have? As long as one of them was dispatched, they could sweep across Heavenly Ocean Star. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance to live. Hu Qingbai said indifferently, kneel down and kowtow to me 100 times. Then I'll consider sparing your life. This was called giving him a taste of his own medicine. You want me to kneel? Haha, I'll make you kneel until your bones break. Hearing Hu Qingbai's words, the people around him sneered. Regardless of the truth of the matter, as guests from the outer space, they naturally stood on Hu Qingbai's side. They looked down on the natives. Look, the strongest person was only at the spirit transformation realm. How could they take him seriously? If you were weak, you would be beaten and bullied. This was the iron law of the cultivation world. No one would sympathize with the weak. The strong could do whatever they wanted. Ling Han smiled faintly. My patience is limited. If you don't kneel in 10 seconds, I'll kill you. His tone was very calm, as if he was talking about something very ordinary. Hu Qingbai was embarrassed. Ling Han dared to not give him face. He had already revealed his identity. Damn it. Do you really want to die? Hu Qingbai sneered. He lightly pressed his chest, and a ray of light surged out, covering his entire body. Immediately, a set of green battle armor appeared on his body. This is the flying cloud armor, which can increase my combat power by 1 star, he said proudly. In the previous blow, Ling Han was only a little stronger than him. The gap was not as big as 1 star. 1, 2, 3. Ling Han counted. Hu Qingbai was furious. Ling Han didn't take him seriously at all. How could this native be so hateful? He gritted his teeth and said, I'm going to tear you into pieces and feed every piece of your flesh to the dogs. 6, 7, 8. Ling Han continued to count. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. This native was really bold and had a personality. This show was a bit interesting. Reading on a mobile phone was refreshing. Chapter 3704. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC Hu Qingbai only felt his vision go black, and a figure appeared in front of him. It was Ling Han. He wanted to attack, but as soon as he raised his hand, he groaned in pain. His armor was broken, and he had been hit by the beam of light. He was seriously injured, so how could he have any strength left? Ling Han slapped him, and Hu Qingbai was slapped to the ground. Everyone sighed. This was the strength of an array master. They couldn't underestimate him. Look, without the slightest effort, a 2-star genius was defeated, and this was still a formation that Ling Han had set up at the last moment. If he had enough time to prepare, then even if he had to face 10 or even 100 Hu Qingbais, Ling Han would probably still be the victorious party, right? Just think about those ancient ruins. In fact, there were arrays in them, and many people were trapped in them. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes lit up, and they were even more determined to make friends with Ling Han. Ling Han's heart also jumped. He had seen another path. If he could study arrays to the peak, could he even kill saints? Of course, he didn't know how far he had to go. Kneel and apologize, or die, he said coldly. Since he had said it, he naturally had to do it. Hu Qingbai raised his head. How could he kneel in front of everyone? He sneered, Do you dare kill me? If I die, my life tablet will immediately shatter, and my father will immediately receive the news. At that time, he will come to kill me. Not just you, but the entire heavenly starry star will be buried with me. Kill me, kill me. Ling Han's eyes sharpened. He hated threats the most. So what if it was a sect master level almighty? At worst, he could use the heavenly flame to burn them. Anyway, he still had 8 chances to use it. But there was one problem. If he used the heavenly flame again, it was very likely that he would absorb the gold origin Holy Land. As long as the other side compared them, they would find that the 2 flames were of the same origin. Naturally, he would be exposed as the real culprit behind the burning of the Holy Land. But so what? As you wish, Ling Han said coldly, his killing intent surging like ice. Everyone grimaced. This fella was just too decisive, right? He even killed a sect master level supreme being's heir just like that. Brother Ling, please be lenient. Someone immediately stepped forward to smooth things over. Hu Qingbai is right. If a sect master level powerhouse arrives, the people here will be plunged into misery and suffering. Even if Brother Ling has a way to escape, the people here are innocent. It was a green-haired young man. His eyes were shining like little suns. It was unknown whether he was from a different race or he was born with a divine body. He smiled at Ling Han. My name is Cheng Fei, and I actually don't know Hu Qingbai, so Brother Ling shouldn't think that I'm speaking up for him. That's right. Brother Ling still has a bright and boundless future ahead of him. There's no need to ruin it here, another person advised. Princess Bai Xiao also walked over and said, forget it. Hu Qingbai, quickly apologized to this lady. Cheng Fei shouted at Hu Qingbai. Hu Qingbai's face was deathly pale. He had really been frightened by Ling Han just now. Ling Han's killing intent was like steel and ice, incomparably firm and bone-chilling. This made him realize that Ling Han wasn't just trying to scare him, but really dared to attack. When he thought of this, he was terrified. He was actually going to give up his life just to fight with a native for a moment of anger. Of course it wasn't worth it. Thus, he said to Princess Bai Xiao, I'm sorry, I was rude. He swore that he would definitely get his revenge. In the future, he would make Ling Han kneel in front of him and make him suffer a fate worse than death. Meanwhile, he would toy with Princess Bai Xiao until she died. A pair of bitches actually dared to humiliate him. Princess Bai Xiao hurriedly said to Ling Han, forget it, he already apologized. She was really worried about Ling Han and didn't want anything to happen to him. In any case, Ling Han had already stood up for her, and this made her feel sweet in her heart. Just when everyone thought that Ling Han was going to stop, they saw Ling Han raise his leg and suddenly kick out. Pa! Hu Qingbai fell to the ground. Ling Han walked over and pulled his upper body up. This time, Hu Qingbai was in a kneeling position. I told you to kneel and apologize, didn't you hear me clearly? He whispered in Hu Qingbai's ear while his right hand was squeezing the other's neck. You can test my courage and see if I dare to kill you. A terrifying chill immediately swept through Hu Qingbai's body, and he couldn't help but shiver. This killing intent was so cold that it went straight into his heart. He didn't dare to try. Just now, he was already frightened by Ling Han's killing intent. This guy really couldn't be measured by common sense. Maybe he would make a move. In any case, he was already in a kneeling position, so saying another sentence wouldn't make a difference. I'm sorry, I was wrong, he said to Princess Bai Xiao again, his face flushed red. As the dignified son of the sect master, how could he bear to kneel and apologize in public? How shameful. How could he lose his face to another planet? Scram. Ling Han casually waved his hand and threw Hu Qingbai out. For a moment, everyone was speechless. This guy was too stubborn. If he said he wanted people to kneel and apologize, then he would definitely make them kneel. Just apologizing was useless. He was really too stubborn. But some people saw something deeper behind this, and that was Ling Han's determination. He wouldn't give up until he reached his goal, and he wouldn't compromise. This was an incomparably precious quality in martial art. He wouldn't give up no matter what difficulties he encountered, and he wouldn't turn back even if he ran into a wall. Instead, he would forcefully break through the wall or smash himself to death. No wonder this guy could move into formations at such a young age. With such perseverance and enough talent, it would be strange if he didn't have such achievements. Brother Ling, I'm Su Feilang. I want to be friends with you. I'm Zhuang Bombing. Greetings, Brother Ling. Everyone gathered around, wanting to be friends with Ling Han. He was a formation genius and a future formation grandmaster. He was definitely worth befriending. As for offending Hu Qingbai, they were all descendants and successors of sect masters or even venerable level powerhouses. Would they be afraid? Ling Han also became enthusiastic and greeted everyone one by one. These people might become his connections after he entered the universe in the future, so he didn't mind making a few more friends. After talking for a while, he said to Princess Bai Xiao, let's go back. Princess Bai Xiao's mind was still filled with the scene of Ling Han forcing Hu Qingbai to kneel. Her heart surged. This man, in order to vent her anger, even beat the son of a sect master level elite as he pleased, and even forced him to lower his head and kneel to apologize. How could she not be moved? At this moment, she was really willing to give birth to monkeys for Ling Han. Yes, they were indeed monkeys. It didn't take long for the two of them to return to the camp. Ling Han began to set up the formation, preparing to refine the Greenwood Spirit replenishing pill. If he wasn't an array master, He would have to first buy the corresponding array foundation and then ask an array master to set up the formation for him. Now, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Ling Han was an array master himself, so he could take care of everything. It began. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3705. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC refining celestial grade pills was more complicated. Formations alone were not enough. A pill furnace was also needed, which was very important. Because the quality of the pill furnace would also affect the quality of the pills. Ling Han did not have a good pill furnace on hand, so he could only use the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower as a replacement. Why was the pill furnace so important? That was because the pill furnace was an artifact for alchemists. It would be fused with a trace of soul, so it would be extremely sensitive to changes in energy. Refining pills was actually using energy to extract medicinal properties, guide them, and fuse them. The more sensitive one was to energy, the higher the chances of refining pills, and the higher the quality of the pills would be. The chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower was Ling Han's artifact. It was made of gold and could be called the strongest pill furnace in the world. Ling Han activated the formation. Boom, the power of heaven and earth surged. The chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower floated up and down gently. Under Ling Han's guidance, the power of heaven and earth was extracted into the 9th floor. Now, only this floor was empty and could be used as the pill furnace space. Ling Han used that trace of soul to make slight adjustments, changing the strength and type of the energy that entered the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. Shio, 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 materials were thrown out and absorbed by the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. Ling Han carried out precise control. His consciousness turned into thin threads, inspecting every detail. The refining was carried out in an orderly manner. One of the biggest benefits of using the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower to refine pills was that the furnace would not explode. At most, the pills would be ruined and a portion of materials would be wasted. 3 hours passed. Ling Han could not help but frown. He had failed. The Alchemy Emperor had actually failed. Ling Han recalled the entire process and nodded. The recipe is fixed, but the age of the materials cannot completely match the recipe. So, I need to make slight adjustments. This is my mistake. He started again. After another 3 hours, Ling Han smiled. It was done. His mind moved. Shio, shio, shio. 7 green pills flew out of the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. The quality of the pills is high grade. Ling Han laughed. He had succeeded on his second try, and it was high grade. What was there to be dissatisfied about? If I refine it a few more times, I will definitely be able to reach the supreme grade. However, after refining pills twice, Ling Han's mental strength was also greatly consumed, and he could no longer continue. He would rest first and come back tomorrow. He was not a stingy person, so he gave 2 greenwood spirit replenishing pills to Princess by Xiao and 6th baby. He could only take 1 pill a day. After all, it was a medicine with a certain degree of toxicity. Taking too many would not only be of no benefit to his cultivation, but it would also accumulate pill poison. When it reached a certain level, even a saint would not be able to save him. But for the vast majority of people, this problem did not exist. Who was so rich that they could eat greenwood panacea every day and still have extra? Naturally, Princess Bai Xiao was pleasantly surprised. This greenwood spiritual restoration pill was extremely precious and no one on Heavenly Sea Star could refine it. But after thinking about it, she still accepted it. Well, since I'm in too much debt, I'll pay with my body, she said in her heart. Her face was flushed, and she was extremely shy. However, 6th baby didn't want it. She said, "Father, we are special. No celestial medicine has any effect on us. Hey, could it be that you grew out of the gourd vines, so you can't eat vegetables?" Okay. Ling Han nodded. He trusted the milk babies very much and believed in their uniqueness. Since 6th baby said that the greenwood spiritual restoration pill had no effect on her, then it definitely had no effect. Ling Han put away the pill. This thing should be one of the most practical pills for the Foundation establishment realm. Now that there were many Foundation Establishment realm cultivators here, there should be a wide market for it and it could be sold for a high price. Moreover, he had promised the stall owner that he would sell him a portion of the Greenwood Spiritual Restoration Pill in exchange for more green foxwood. When the time comes, one will regret not having enough pills, Ling Han said with a sigh. The next morning, when the sun rose, Ling Han first swallowed a Greenwood Spiritual Restoration Pill and then began to cultivate. In this way, the effect of the pill could be maximized. Hong, under the guidance of the large sun lotus technique, the power of heaven and earth surged into Ling Han's body. All the apertures in his body were opened, and there were 360 of them, which was 10 times more than the weakest foundation building tier. Naturally, his cultivation speed was also 10 times slower. In addition, there were 2 mysterious forces working in his body. They continuously transformed into mysterious forces that he could absorb and strengthen the Foundation Establishment realm of immortality. These were naturally the Greenwood Spiritual Restoration Pill that he had just taken and the Silver Arowana that he had eaten earlier. The special characteristic of the Silver Arowana was that the effect would not be immediately apparent. Instead, it would take a while for the Silver Arowana to take effect. In particular, the effect of the Greenwood Spiritual Restoration Pill was very obvious. Ling Han could clearly feel that his progress was much faster than the day before. I don't know the limit of the Foundation Establishment realm, so I can't estimate my progress. I don't know if I have entered the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Ling Han rubbed his chin. Forget it, I don't care about it. In any case, as long as I cultivate to the point where I can't advance any further, I will be at the peak of the Foundation Establishment realm. He first concocted a cauldron of pills. This time, the quality of the pills was still high grade, and hadn't leaped into the supreme grade. However, the number of completed pills had reached 8, which meant that Ling Han had actually made some progress in concocting the Azure Wood Restore Spirit Pill. It had only been 1 night, and he had only refined 1 more cauldron, but he had already made such progress. The title of Alchemy Emperor was not just for show. However, his mental energy was almost exhausted. Ling Han didn't want to tire himself out too much, so he didn't refine a second cauldron. He went to the market and found the stall owner from the day before. "Hey, brother, it's you," the stall owner said with a smile. "What's wrong? You've wasted all the materials, and you want to replenish them?" Ling Han laughed, drew out a pill bottle, and handed it over. "Hey, you succeeded." The stall owner was skeptical. After taking the pill bottle, he opened the stopper and looked inside. He couldn't help but be moved. He had obviously eaten the Greenwood Spiritual Restoration Pill before, so he was no stranger to it. This was definitely the real thing, and the quality was extraordinary. "You really succeeded." The stall owner looked at Ling Han in shock. It had only been a day, and he had succeeded. To most alchemists, it was already not bad if they could refine 1 cauldron of pills out of 10. So although he had sold Ling Han a piece of green foxwood, he didn't think that Ling Han could really refine anything. At least not so quickly. But Ling Han had succeeded, and the quality of the pill was so high. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. "I am Lin Zun, let's be friends," the stall owner said. "Ling Han." Ling Han also smiled, and stretched out his hand to the other. Lin Zun shook hands with Ling Han, and said, "I come from the Eternal Star, also known as the Herb Garden Star. The environment there is especially suitable for growing celestial medicines. Many celestial medicines that don't grow on other stars can survive on the Herb Garden Star, and they grow well and quickly. Hehe, I came here this time to sell medicinal ingredients. Going to the mystic realm is just along the way." He was really honest. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3706. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han and Lin Zun chatted for a while. As expected, Lin Zun kept his word and took out a few more sections of fox green wood to sell to Ling Han. They were much older than the previous section, and the price was quite fair. The two reached an agreement. No matter how many sections of fox green wood Lin Zun sold to Ling Han would sell the same amount of greenwood spirit mending pills to Lin Zun. It seemed that Ling Han had made a huge profit, But he was the alchemy emperor. His success rate was beyond imagination. For an ordinary alchemist, this was already a very high requirement. Ling Han learned that most of the people on the herb garden star were herb farmers, but there was not a single alchemist. Thus, the herbs produced could only be sold and could not be used to refine pills. Although they were upstream of the pill industry, they did not earn much profit. The majority of the profits were taken by alchemists and medicinal groups. There was no other way. The medicinal groups around the herb garden star worked together to drive down the price, causing the price of raw materials to not be high. "Can't you transport the herbs out yourself?" Ling Han asked. "I thought about it, and I tried." Lin Zun shook his head. "But there are interstellar pirates outside our star. They stole all our goods, and the result was even worse." Ling Han could not help but sneer. "What interstellar pirates?" "It's most likely those medicinal groups in disguise." Sigh. Lin Zun sighed. "There's nothing we can do. Although our herb garden star is suitable for the growth of herbs, it's not suitable for the growth of martial artists. We can't produce any experts, so we can only be trampled on." Ling Han nodded. "Then you've come out this time, firstly to sell medicine, and secondly to become stronger. If I can become a sect master in the future, I'd like to see who dares to bully our herb garden star," Lin Zun said angrily. Ling Han paused and said, "In the future, I can sell you 2 greenwood spirit mending pills every time." "Really?" Lin Zun's eyes lit up. "Really?" Ling Han nodded. "Thank you. No need. I'm not giving you pills and collecting money." "Ha." Lin Zun patted Ling Han's shoulder. The greenwood spirit replenishing pill had always been priceless. Apart from the holy sons and holy daughters of the large sects, other successors could rarely take it. Ling Han had done him a great favor by selling him an extra greenwood spiritual supplement pill. He didn't say any words of gratitude. Instead, he hid it in his heart. He would definitely repay him in the future. Ling Han taking out an extra greenwood spirit replenishing pill didn't mean much to him. As long as he had enough green fox wood, he, the alchemy emperor, didn't need to worry about not having enough medicine to eat. Moreover, he was born on the herb garden star, so he definitely had the means to obtain a large number of precious medicinal ingredients. This network was incomparably useful to him. When Ling Han returned to his tent, he saw that there were already many people waiting for him, wanting to get to know him better. A genius array master was really worth befriending. Ling Han was also a good judge of character. If he could get along well with the other party, he would say a few more words. If he could not, he would not deliberately offend the other party, either. He was just too lazy to deal with them. If he spoke less, the other party would also know what was going on, and would not seek a rebuff. A few days later, someone issued a bounty. Whoever could kill Ling Han would be able to obtain 1,000 myriad Dao stones. When Ling Han received the news, he was extremely surprised. How could he receive the bounty? He didn't even know who the person who issued the bounty was. "You're actually curious about this." Princess Bai Xiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Shouldn't you be more concerned about who issued the bounty and how to deal with the possible assassins?" Ling Han smiled slightly. "It's most likely Hu Qingbai who issued the bounty. I'm thinking, if someone else really succeeds and goes to him to claim the bounty, what if he pats his butt and refuses to admit it?" Princess Bai Xiao was speechless. Ling Han quickly knew that this kind of bounty was not a joke. Although the universe was huge, after so many years of development, other than the endless edge of the universe, the entire world had already been connected. The interior of the star body was through the star vine, and the connection between the star body and the star body was through the spatial node. On the planet where martial art was developing normally, many people would buy a connection device to connect to the enormous interstellar network and understand the major events that were happening in the universe in real time. It was said that this interstellar network was constructed by an ancestral king in ancient times. He used his great magic power to open up spatial nodes. After the interstellar network was built, it also produced a type of virtual currency, the universe dollar. The stability of the universe dollar was maintained by the power of the ancestral king who built the interstellar network. They had a large number of Dao stones in their hands, ensuring that the universe dollar could definitely be exchanged for Dao stones. With such a foundation, it was possible to trade across the stars. The bounty on Ling Han's head was posted on the interstellar network. Whoever wanted to kill Ling Han had to upload the image of Ling Han's death, which would be recognized by this platform. Then, they would be able to directly transfer the 1,000 universe coins that the bounty holder had previously deducted into their account. Previously, the Xianbei country's internet platform was the prototype of the interstellar network. However, there was no star vine at that time, so they had to rely on satellites and optical cables. As an ancient person from 2,000 years ago, Chen Fengyang definitely knew about the interstellar network. Hey, there's actually such a good thing. Ling Han was surprised. Unfortunately, he did not have a connection device, so he could not connect to the interstellar network. However, there were many extraterrestrial visitors here, so he could borrow them. Ling Han used someone else's connection device to log into the interstellar network. Immediately, an incomparably vast world appeared in front of him. Before this, he was like a frog at the bottom of a well. The things he could come into contact with were incomparably poor. As long as you have enough universe dollars, you can also buy cultivation techniques, pill recipes, and formations. Ling Han nodded. If you want to obtain universe dollars, the fastest way is to charge Dao stones. Many stars have Chang clan's charging points. The Chang clan was the descendant of the ancestral king who built the interstellar network. Controlling such a huge network, after countless years, the Chang clan's wealth and power must have reached a terrifying level. Unfortunately, even with such astonishing resources, the Chang clan was not able to produce a second ancestral king. The difficulty of the Emperor's Road could be imagined. However, firstly, the Dao stones in my hands are limited, and secondly, there are no top-up points on Heavenly Sea Star. Then, I can only earn universe dollars first. I can auction the Greenwood Spirit Replenishing Pill and let others transfer it to me through the interstellar network. No wonder when I was selling the materials, there were people who asked me for my account number. I don't have an account number, but Lin Zun should have one. I'll put the money with him first. I'll ask him what his account number is tomorrow. Ling Han scanned through it. Pill formulas were extremely expensive, and the cheapest immortal-grade pill formulas cost 500 Dao stones. Furthermore, pill formulas were unique, which meant that after you obtained a new pill formula, you could apply for a patent on the interstellar platform. Even if others bought this pill formula from you, they were not allowed to sell it on the interstellar network. The same was true for cultivation techniques and formations. They protected the original creator's labor as much as possible. Of course, to the Chang clan, they could read all the cultivation techniques, pill formulas, and array formations in the world without paying the slightest price. Therefore, it would be difficult for the Chang clan not to be powerful. Cell phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3708. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC. However, those extraterrestrial geniuses came here and paid a huge price, not for business, but because they had some treasures that they didn't need and wanted to use this opportunity to exchange them. Therefore, after a few days, the market became deserted. There were many people shopping and few people selling. In the end, almost everyone was a spectator. Lin Zun also closed his stall. He planned to sell the herbs to Ling Han because he saw Ling Han's genius in alchemy. Although Ling Han could only refine one kind of elixir now, his future was absolutely limitless, and they could cooperate for a long time. The most important thing was that Lin Zun also believed in Ling Han's character. The hidden moon realm didn't open for a long time, but those who should have come had already arrived. Everyone was waiting nearby. Some people didn't have much patience and fought every day. Fortunately, due to the majesty of the spirit transformation perfected lords, they didn't dare to kill. Just when Ling Han thought he would wait for Tang Yun to return, the hidden moon realm suddenly opened. Without any warning, moonlight gushed out like a heavenly spring. Everyone ran out to see, and saw that the place where the pillar of light had been gushing out had been wrapped in endless moonlight, and from time to time, it was magnificent and spectacular. The hidden moon realm is open. Xiao, a figure flew over, standing proudly in the sky, exuding a powerful aura. Zhu Ling perfected Lord Xiao, more figures flew over, but there were pitifully few people who could stand still in the sky. This required at least the cultivation of the life core realm, and among the natives of Heavenly Sea Star, only Chen Fengyang met this standard. The others were all from the cage. The problem was, no matter how big the cage was, how many people could there be? Therefore, there were only a few hundred people standing in the sky now, which was naturally pitifully small compared to the tens of thousands of people on other stars. No wonder those extraterrestrial visitors looked down on Heavenly Sea Star. In terms of strength, Heavenly Sea Star was too weak. Work hard, go. Don't retreat in the face of difficulties, move forward bravely. Those experts all began to instruct their descendants. Very few of them told them to be extra careful, instead encouraging them to take risks. For the inheritance of the sage, shouldn't they? At this time, in order to seize the time, everyone entered the place shrouded in moonlight. Ling Han held sixth baby in his arms and walked over there. Princess Bai Xiao followed closely behind him. He could clearly feel the gazes of many people staring at him. Some of them were very obscure, and some of them were emitting undisguised killing intent. These people might not take 1,000 Dao stones to heart, but killing people in the secret realm was a matter of course. So, they could eliminate a competitor and earn some Dao stones at the same time. After all, this time, there were still no Daoist or Holy Maiden level geniuses coming over. Even if they were the key disciples of the great sects, the cultivation resources they received were still limited. 1,000 Dao stones was still a considerable amount of wealth. As for why there weren't any Dao children or saintesses, could it be that the great sects didn't think that they would be able to reap any rewards? That made sense. This secret realm had existed for millions of years, so there must have been true geniuses who had come here before, but none of them had passed. As time passed, those great sects were too lazy to waste their time on top-notch geniuses. Therefore, these slightly inferior geniuses replaced them. It did not matter if they could not obtain the saint's inheritance, at least they could gain some experience. Was that really so? Ling Han said in his heart, but his feet did not slow down at all. In the ancient ruins, he was not afraid of anyone targeting him. At most, he would fight. When it came to fighting, who was he afraid of among those of the same level? When Ling Han entered the moonlight, a mysterious power surged. It was strange and magnificent. Well, this is the power of teleportation. Ling Han was now well versed in formations. Although the number of formations he could set up was limited, he had no lack of understanding of formations. It was naturally not difficult to determine the type of formation. This secret realm is definitely not underground. It's not even on Heavenly Sea Star, but on a fragment of ancient Heavenly Sea Star. Ling Han took a few more steps, and the moonlight that filled the sky disappeared. He saw a wasteland in front of him, and when he looked up, the starry sky was different. Sure enough, this is definitely not Heavenly Sea Star. Otherwise, the position of the star would not have such a huge deviation. Hey, where is this? Princess Bai Xiao also walked in and looked at the sky in surprise. We should have left Heavenly Sea Star, Ling Han said in a deep voice. Princess Bai Xiao frowned and said, if this is in the universe, why hasn't it been discovered after so many years? This was a problem. Although the vast sea of stars was vast, over the countless years, there must have been starships that explored mineral veins and alchemy star that found this place. Maybe it's the work of a sage. Ling Han thought for a moment, from the outside, maybe this place is a broken meteorite. Okay. Princess Bai Xiao nodded and reluctantly agreed with Ling Han's inference. Everyone who entered this place definitely did not appear here. Ling Han remembered clearly that there was a middle-aged man in black who walked in front of him, but when he came out, the man was gone. It was impossible that the other party was fast and had already run away. Ling Han believed in his eyesight. In this short period of time, the other party could have run away from the limits of his eyesight. Therefore, there was only one possibility. Although there was only one door to enter, during the teleportation process, everyone could have been randomly assigned to any corner. It could only be said that it was a coincidence that Princess Bai Xiao was able to follow behind him. Let's go. Ling Han said excitedly. Those geniuses from previous generations could not get the inheritance of a sage, but it did not mean that he could not. He was the man who obtained the mother gold. Speaking of which, if Wu Qingshu could leave behind some inheritance, I wouldn't have to work so hard. Ling Han thought in his heart. This sage probably admired Great Emperor Wuya too much. He thought that in front of Great Emperor Wuya, his inheritance was not worth mentioning at all, so he simply let him die. Sigh, I don't mind. Ling Han's face was full of depression. To be able to become a sage, he was almost the strongest existence in the world. He must have obtained countless treasures in his life, and any one of them could save him hundreds or thousands of years of hard work. Ling Han, someone wants me to take your life. A slightly immature voice suddenly came from behind. Hey, who is this? It feels so pretentious. Ling Han turned around and saw a 15 or 16-year-old youth behind him. He was really still wet behind the ears, and his face was full of childishness. This youth was called Zhuang Bufan. He came from an extraordinary background, and his elder brother was even one of the few geniuses. He had seen his elder brother act pretentiously everywhere since he was young, and it had left an indelible impression in his young heart. Of course, young people liked to imitate the people they admired. Therefore, his tone of voice was exactly the same as his elder brother. Very pretentious, very annoying. Phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3709. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han looked at Zhuang Bufan with a smile, and said, "Children shouldn't speak like adults. Go home quickly." Zhuang Bufan was furious. He hated it when people called him childish. "Don't look down on me," he said loudly. Suddenly raising your voice is usually because you've been hit on the weak spot, and you've become angry out of humiliation. Ling Han said calmly. When it came to verbal skills, he was naturally very sharp after training with the large black dog. Zhuang Bufan's face instantly turned red. "I'm already 16 years old, not a child." "Fine, fine, fine. If you say you're not, then you're not. Come, sixth baby, give him a candy. Take it and go home quickly," Ling Han said. "Damn it." Zhuang Bufan looked at the candy that sixth baby handed over, and his eyes were about to spit fire. He had put on a high and mighty front and said, "Someone wants me to take your life," which was full of arrogance. However, who would have thought that Ling Han would not play by the rules? He did not ask who it was, and did not fight with him in a flustered and exasperated manner. Instead, he teased him like he was a child. Now, he was about to explode with anger. No, he could not hold it in any longer. Xiao, he charged out and punched out. Sixth baby giggled and also leaped out of Ling Han's arms, charging towards Zhuang Bufan. Was a milk baby worthy of fighting with him? Zhuang Bufan humphed and waved his hand, wanting to sweep sixth baby to the side. He was very careful with this palm, and his strength was very gentle. However, when he struck out with his palm, he was shocked and suddenly realized that the entry requirement here was the foundation building tier. So, this milk baby was in the foundation building tier, F*CK. He was only 2 or 3 steps into the foundation building tier. What the hell was this? However, it was too late for him to change his attack. Sixth baby rushed over with a terrifying power that seemed capable of destroying the stars. She had an innate divine body, and her battle prowess was far superior to that of a normal foundation building cultivator. Fortunately, sixth baby was more skilled in stealth and penetration, and did not strengthen her attack. If it was elder baby, then the power of this violent monster would be many times stronger. Peng, the attack landed, and Zhuang Bufan screamed in pain as he was sent flying. Sixth baby clapped his hands, turned around, smiled, and said in a childish voice, "Done, let's call it a day." Ling Han nodded. "Let's go." This Zhuang Bufan could only be considered a child. Moreover, when he was fighting against sixth baby, he had deliberately used his soft power. For this reason, he did not intend to kill him. "Stop right there." Zhuang Bufan jumped up. "I was just careless." He was unconvinced. Previously, because sixth baby was too young, he didn't even use 1% of his strength. It was an unjust defeat. You little brat, are you asking for a beating? Sixth baby pointed at Zhuang Bufan and said, aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? The corner of Zhuang Bufan's mouth twitched. Ling Han's mouth was venomous, but this kid wasn't any better. As expected, people who were not of the same family would not enter the same door. With a shake of his right hand, a long sword had already appeared in his hand. Wang, the body of the sword trembled slightly, and its entire body shone. Vein-like patterns shone, and it emitted a terrifying pressure. Do you really want to play? Ling Han laughed. Come. Zhuang Bufan shouted loudly. If you can take 10 moves from me, I won't kill you. Sure. Ling Han's feet moved, and he already appeared in front of Zhuang Bufan. So fast. Zhuang Bufan was shocked. He couldn't even catch a trace of Ling Han. This speed was too fast. His reaction was not slow, and he immediately waved his sword and stabbed at Ling Han. The immortal tool displayed its might, and a large number of runes circulated. Ling Han smiled lightly. He opened his right hand, and with a pull, all the sword chi was absorbed into his palm. You're courting death. Zhuang Bufan laughed coldly. Hong, the runes in the sword chi exploded, and its power was completely released. However, he immediately discovered that the energy exploded in Ling Han's hand, but it could not break through his opponent's control. Damn, what kind of hand is that? Is it made of immortal gold? How is it? Ling Han opened his hand, and the sword chi had already been completely dissolved by him. Zhuang Bufan was speechless. Was this the difference in strength? It was too big. I'm not your opponent, he said honestly, his face full of disappointment. Previously, he had thought too highly of himself. Thus, when he saw that the gap between him and Ling Han was so wide, he naturally felt incredibly dejected. Ling Han patted his shoulder. It's normal that you can't beat me. Could it be that you're at the Heaven Foundation Establishment realm, or even the Extreme Foundation Establishment realm? Zhuang Bufan's eyes lit up. He had just entered the Foundation Establishment realm, so it was normal that he couldn't beat a Heaven Foundation Establishment genius. No, I've just entered the Foundation Establishment realm, Ling Han said with a serious expression. Zhuang Bufan immediately felt as if he had received 10,000 points of damage. Both of them had just entered the Foundation Establishment realm, but there was such a huge gap between their strength. This showed just how lacking his talent was. Was that supposed to be comforting him? I'm invincible in the same realm, so you don't need to worry about it, Ling Han said. Zhuang Bufan glanced at Ling Han, and he felt his liver ache. You're the real pretentious expert. Who would dare say they were invincible in the same realm? In a battle of the same realm, you definitely won't be able to beat my brother, he said forcefully, as if he wanted to convince himself. Oh. Ling Han smiled. My brother is ranked around 88,000 in the Star Web Arena, Zhuang Bufan said proudly. PFFF. Ling Han couldn't help but burst out laughing. What was there to be proud of? However, he quickly retracted his smile because Zhuang Bufan was looking at him with a resentful gaze. That's indeed extraordinary. Princess Bai Xiao interrupted. The Star Web Arena includes almost all the cultivators in the universe. Those who can enter the rankings are all super geniuses of a star field. That's right. Zhuang Bufan felt that he had finally met someone who understood him. Don't think that my brother's ranking is low. Although he's only around 80,000, he's still a top-notch existence in the Centaur star field. He's also the highest ranked in our Mingji star. Ling Han nodded and said, Your brother is at the Foundation Establishment realm? My brother is only 29 years old, but he's already a casting cauldron, Zhuang Bufan said proudly. Ling Han slapped the back of Zhuang Bufan's head. You're just a kid. Don't speak like an old man. Zhuang Bufan held his head and looked at Princess Bai Xiao. He hoped that this beautiful big sister could control Ling Han and not treat him like a kid. Unfortunately, how could Princess Bai Xiao help him? Casting cauldron? Then I can't fight with him at the same rank. However, when I connect to the star web in the future, I can spar with him, Ling Han muttered to himself. You're definitely not my brother's match. Zhuang Bufan had a kind of blind worship for his brother. What's your brother's name? In the future, you can go and challenge him. Ling Han smiled. Zhuang Feifan. Ling Han couldn't help but glance at him. I've discovered that the members of your clan are all quite shameless. One was extraordinary, and the other was extraordinary. You're the shameless one, Zhuang Bufan shouted. He naturally wanted to protect his family's dignity. Come, be my little brother. Ling Han suddenly had a strange idea. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3710. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC. Although Zhuang Bufan's name sounded pretentious, being able to reach foundation establishment at the age of 16 showed that he was indeed talented. Of course, he couldn't be compared to the 7 babies, they were born from the gourd vines. I don't want to be your lackey, Zhuang Bufan objected loudly. He, you will agree. Ling Han laughed, his eyes somewhat sinister. What do you want to do? Zhuang Bufan's heart tightened. Ling Han smiled warmly. I want to hang you on a tree, take off your pants and spank you. Zhuang Bufan's breathing stopped. How could he treat him like this? How about it? Ling Han patted Zhuang Bufan's shoulder. Do you want to be my lackey? Yes. Zhuang Bufan gritted his teeth. If he really had to be spanked naked, he would go crazy. Then what should you call me? Ling Han asked patiently. Boss, Zhuang Bufan said softly. What? Boss? This time, his voice was much louder. Ling Han laughed. I was just joking with you. How could an upright person like me do something like hang someone up, take off their pants, and spank them? Princess Bai Xiao, 6th baby, and Zhuang Bufan all ridiculed him at the same time. You can do it, definitely. Ling Han blinked. Since when did his credibility become so low that even a baby like 6th baby had to ridicule him? Forget it, who cares? Ling Han was in a good mood after taking in a lackey. He borrowed Zhuang Bufan's communication device, but it couldn't connect to the galactic network. There's no network in the secret realm, Zhuang Bufan explained, but his tone was filled with mockery. Ling Han patted his shoulder. Come, say that again. Zhuang Bufan felt a sharp pain in his shoulder and quickly said, Boss, there's no network in the secret realm. This sentence was much more respectful. Ling Han nodded in satisfaction and returned the communication device to Zhuang Bufan. If the galactic network couldn't be used, then they wouldn't be able to contact each other quickly. They had to return to the most primitive state of communication. Either they were face-to-face, or they were sending out signal flares. It was impossible for them to be far away. Many people have come this time. Not only are there no lack of experts, many of them have also joined hands. However, it is very likely that they have separated after entering. From the looks of it, it will be very difficult for them to gather again. After all, my cultivation level is a little low. If I were to fight against a 3-star or even 4-star genius of the Foundation establishment stage, it would be very difficult for me to defeat them unless I use the chaotic Polaris Thunder Pagoda. Moreover, if there are too many of such opponents, I will also have a headache. Now, while these people have yet to gather, I should either quickly find the Sage's legacy or defeat them one by one. I can't let this drag on for too long. Ling Han thought. The 4 of them walked for a while, but this place was astonishingly big, and it was a boundless wasteland, with no end in sight. Ling Han decided to split up and explore in different directions before coming back to regroup. The 4 of them went in different directions and soon disappeared into the horizon. Ling Han did not care whether Zhuang Bufan would come back or not. After all, he had only accepted him as a follower on a whim. He used his art of flight. This place was not suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, so flying was not a problem. Ling Han did not fly forward. Instead, he flew straight up into the sky. After flying for about an hour, he realized that he could not go up anymore. A huge golden net appeared in the sky, preventing him from moving forward. This net was made up of many golden lines. Upon closer inspection, these golden lines were covered with mysterious patterns. This was a sage spell formation. The people inside could not get out, and from the outside, could it be that this broken planet did not exist at all? Ling Han was very curious, but how could he see through a sage's means? After studying it for a while, He had no clue at all and could only descend. He continued forward, and after about half a day, the wasteland finally changed. Was this an ancient battlefield? Ling Han saw many corpses in front of him, as well as broken armor, weapons, and flags. The scale of the battle back then was definitely shocking. He was not the first person to arrive here. Many people had already entered the ancient battlefield area and were looking for armor and weapons. However, too much time had passed. Even the armors and weapons were tattered. Moreover, it wasn't their first time here. If there really was something valuable, would it be their turn to get their hands on it? Ling Han. Someone turned around, and when he saw him, he couldn't help but smirk coldly. Though I don't care about that little bounty, since you've delivered yourself to me, I don't mind earning some extra income. It was a burly middle-aged man. He looked down at Ling Han with disdain. Ling Han smiled. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Did they all think that he was easy to bully? You are just a small fry on a backward planet. I can finish you off in one move. The other party rushed over and raised his hand, slamming it down on Ling Han's head. Ling Han stretched out his hand and caught the other party's wrist. What? The middle-aged man revealed a shocked expression and hurriedly struggled, but his wrist seemed to have taken root in Ling Han's hand and couldn't move at all. I've always been an easy person to talk to. If you don't come looking for trouble, I won't bother to bully you. Ling Han said. He didn't look at the middle-aged man. Instead, he glanced at the others in the ancient battlefield. However, this doesn't mean that I won't kill. Boom. The heavenly Tao flame surged and instantly enveloped the middle-aged man. That middle-aged man screamed, but it was only for an instant before he lost his voice. He was burned to ashes by the raging flames. Many people revealed expressions of fear. To most people, 1,000 Tao stones could be considered a small fortune. If it was just a passing matter, then no one would mind stretching out their hands. However, if it was possible to risk their lives, then no one would be willing to do so. It turned out that not only was Ling Han a genius array master, but he was also shockingly strong. It was better not to provoke him. However, there were those who were fearful, and naturally, there were those who didn't care. But a kid who just stepped into the foundation establishment stage, a blue-robed middle-aged man walked over with large strides. He actually had a fish's gills on the side of his mouth, which made him look very strange. Obviously, his original form should be some kind of fish, shrimp, or crab. His transformation was not thorough enough, so only his gills remained. I've long found you unpleasant to the eye. It's just that you've been hiding in the imperial capital. Now that Chen Fengyang is no longer protecting you, killing you is as easy as flipping my hand, the blue-robed middle-aged man said coldly and slammed his palm towards Ling Han. Ling Han swung his fist to meet it. Peng! The two forces vibrated and immediately swept up a lot of the wreckage in the vicinity. White bones danced and broken blades flew. The two of them were equally matched in this exchange. Indeed extraordinary. A mere foundation establishment stage can actually match the power of a peak foundation establishment stage. The blue-robed middle-aged man sneered. Unfortunately, I'm not at the foundation establishment stage but the cast tripod realm. He attacked once again. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3712. BQG6, CC BQG6. CC, was it haunted, or was there some indescribable force supporting it, allowing the dead to rise again? Ling Han was leaning towards the latter. He did not sense any soul fluctuations, so this corpse must have crawled back up under the influence of some kind of force. Ka, Ka, Ka. The sounds did not stop. Countless corpses were crawling back up on their own. Some were still wearing tattered battle armor, and green flames danced in their eye sockets. Ka, Ka, Ka. Countless corpses were crawling up on their own. Some of them were still wearing tattered armor, and green flames were dancing in their eye sockets. These corpses all stared at Ling Han, and they all aimed their weapons at him. Their killing intent seethed, and it was almost tangible. But even so, this skeleton horseman still emitted a powerful aura. The sharp aura seemed to have solidified, and it wrapped around the battle spear in his hand. It was as if the heavens were pressing down, and he would be able to pierce through it with a single spear. But even so, this skeleton horseman still emitted a powerful aura. The sharp aura seemed to have solidified, and it wrapped around the battle spear in his hand. It was as if the heavens were pressing down, and he would be able to pierce through it with a single spear. Kill. This skeleton horseman said coldly. Instantly, the army of corpses charged towards Ling Han. Ling Han struck out with a baleful aura, but it had no effect. These were all soldiers of the army of corpses, and they were all dead creatures without souls. They could only move because they were controlled by some indescribable force. Thus, baleful aura attacks were naturally ineffective against them. Then let's switch again. Who? Ling Han shouted, activating the 6-character Wisdom King mantra. The Buddhist chants were vast and mighty, but they still had no effect. This confirmed Ling Han's guess. Although the army of corpses looked frightening, they were not ghosts. Thus, the Buddhist chants were also ineffective against them. Boom, the army of corpses arrived, and a dense mass of saber chi and sword chi shot over. Ling Han opened up a screen of starlight. Peng, peng, peng. These attacks were all blocked. However, this volley of attacks had almost depleted the power of the starlight barrier. It would only take one more attack to shatter it. Of course, Ling Han would not sit and wait for death. No matter how confident he was, it was impossible for him to foolishly stay where he was and be bombarded by so many skeletons. In that case, no matter how strong he was, he would be blasted into pieces. Xiao, 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 he used his movement technique and leaped out of the encirclement. However, there were corpses everywhere. No matter where Ling Han ran to, all he could do was fight. Then let's fight. Ling Han let out a long howl and punched out with both his fists, executing the demon monkey fist. He was incomparably valiant. This army of corpses all had the strength of the human foundation building realm. The power of their joint attack was extremely terrifying, but their defense was relatively weak. Even if they were just grazed by the aftershock of Ling Han's punch, their bones would fly and they would immediately fall apart. Boom, his current strength was incomparably terrifying. When he punched out, the power of his punch could reach a distance of 300 meters, and it still maintained a powerful destructive power. With one punch, he could open up a large area in front of him. He was strangely fierce and domineering, and his battle prowess was terrifying. Meanwhile, the army of corpses had the advantage of endless numbers. It was as if there was no end to them, and they continued to charge over. These skeleton soldiers had no emotions and did not know pain. They only knew to fight, and this made them terrifying killing machines. More importantly, there were far, far too many of them. Just how big was this ancient battlefield? There were corpses everywhere, and now they were crawling up one after another. There was no end in sight. Just how long would they have to fight for? If it was someone else, they would definitely fight and retreat at the same time, wanting to leave this ancient battlefield. After all, there was a limit to one's strength. However, Ling Han did not retreat. In terms of strength, he could only match the peak of the supreme foundation building realm, but in terms of secret power reserves, he could completely challenge the spirit transformation true monarch or even the sect master level. There was no helping it. Who asked him to have countless planes in his body, and they had all transformed into his secret realms? Come, fight, fight, fight. Hom, hom, hom. Ever since Ling Han stepped onto the path of immortality, he has never fought to his heart's content. He felt very satisfied. Actually, he could have summoned the chaotic Polaris Thunder Tower. This was the prototype of a royal weapon, and the chaotic air's defense was so strong that it would require multiple attacks from the supreme foundational realm to break through. The attacks from the mortal foundational realm were completely negligible. But right now, Ling Han only wanted to fight. He only wanted to use his fists to settle everything. If he could avoid relying on external forces, then he wouldn't. Even if it was his own artifact, it was the same. The intensity of this battle was extremely high. If it was another foundation building tier cultivator, even if it was one at the extreme level of the foundation building tier, they would at most be exhausted after 2 or 3 hours. However, This was completely unsuitable for Ling Han. His strength was endless, and he was completely capable of fighting at this intensity for a few months. Of course, having secret power was one thing, but he also had to consider his body's limit. A few months would be too much, but a few days would be no problem. After a hard night of fighting, the first ray of sunlight appeared at dawn and shone down on the land. Instantly, the ferocious corpses seemed to have lost their motivation. They all fell to the ground and turned into inanimate objects. The sky was bright. Ling Han looked at the dazzling sunlight and thought to himself, these corpses probably only move at night, but what's the point of their existence? He froze and saw a ray of light envelop him. Then, a brand was left on his wrist and disappeared in a flash. Why did they all like to do this? Ling Han touched his wrist and stamped him again. Was this fun? Why not just give him some benefits, such as a huge leap in cultivation? That was more practical. He sat down and planned to cultivate, but he immediately discovered that the power of heaven and earth was extremely weak and could not support his cultivation at all. It could only help him recover his secret power. Was this because the land under his feet was not a celestial body, but a fragment of a celestial body? Was it a slightly larger meteorite? Ling Han still ate a verdant spiritual pill. Since he could not rely on the power of heaven and earth, he could only rely on medicinal pills. He used the Great Sun Lotus technique to push the medicinal power, and the silver arowana was also taking effect. Therefore, even without the help of the power of heaven and earth, Ling Han's cultivation was rapidly increasing. His humanity foundation was becoming stronger and stronger. At first, it was only the size of a soybean, but now it was slightly larger than a human head. This could be considered a telekinesis ritual implement. It could shrink in size, but its weight was extremely light. Therefore, even if it was used to attack, the effect could not be compared to a telekinesis ritual implement. Generally speaking, the limit of humanity foundation was the size of a manhole cover. Based on this calculation, Ling Han would probably need a few more months of cultivation to reach the end of foundation establishment. But he was not an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator, so he did not know how much his humanity foundation could reach. He thought about it and decided to retreat first. After meeting up with sixth baby, Princess Bai Xiao, and Zhuang Bufan, he would return here and continue to explore this ancient battlefield. Cell phone reading is more refreshing. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.